This shutdown in particular, it really underscores that the modern political system and how we fund our government can be seized up by a small group of hardliners. The government is about to shut down this weekend, and we don't know for how long. So it's Congress's job to fund the government every fall, but a group of hard-right Republicans in the House of Representatives has essentially stopped that in its tracks. And all that the Senate can do is try to pass its own bill and hope the House will take it up, which they've done. In this case, a short-term spending bill just to keep the government open for a couple more months, to give them more time to negotiate all this. But the House leader, Kevin McCarthy, has decided he's not going to take up anything that has Democrat support. And that's a problem because you're going to need Democrats in the Senate and a Democrat in the White House, President Biden, to sign a spending bill to keep the government open. And we find ourselves at an impasse. Republicans who are just refusing to hand over their votes. Their reasons change, who they are even changes, but what stays the same is there is just this intransigent group of lawmakers who almost don't want the government to stay open, and they're not willing to negotiate. And then you have this broader setup within the House that leads to the House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, being politically incentivized to cater to this group of far-right Republicans rather than trying to put something on the House floor that would get a majority of support. Because let's remember, behind all this fighting, there's a lot of lawmakers, both Republicans and Democrats, who would probably agree on a spending bill to keep the government open. There's no major policy that we can point to say why the government might be shutting down, why there's this showdown. There's not even a showdown between Democrats and Republicans. This just feels like it's Republicans fighting amongst themselves about where they want to go and what priorities they want to have for keeping the government funded. The Washington Post's Jeff Stein has talked to conservative critics who say this could be the first ever shutdown about nothing. That's because there's this group of about half a dozen to 20 Republican lawmakers who are ever changing, their votes are ever changing, their demands are ever changing. That, of course, could make it very difficult for Republicans to sell essentially the shutdown, to argue why it's necessary. It's not clear what conservatives who aren't offering their vote for a spending bill want. They've changed their votes, they've changed their minds, they've changed their policies on any number of things. The one constant seems to be a group of maybe about half a dozen or so, led by Republican Matt Gaetz of Florida, almost wanting to be an extreme thorn in the side of House leadership. They've calculated it is good for them politically back home to be seen as antagonizing House Republican leadership. So that's what they're doing, even if it leads to a shutdown. It is not clear what it would take to get these House Republicans on board. One potential, and we've seen in the past, is that the longer the shutdown goes on, the more political pressure they face back home. Another option is there's just nothing that could bring them on board. And eventually House Republican leadership decides that they're just going to negotiate with the moderate, the middle, the center of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, to get something passed that could pass the Senate, where Republicans and Democrats are largely unified on not shutting down the government, and on to President Biden.